cow can live in a hygienic environment, therefore free from diseases. So that is why all this is very, very important. The animal should be housed very, very well. If a proper good quality milk has to reach the entire world or a particular place, then that milk also should be of high quality. How to handle them very carefully so that you don't disturb them when you remove the hive in order to extract the honey. All that should be taken care of. So it is better to visit 1 or 2 workshops, learn about it, and then come back and practice in the home. Hello everyone, a warm welcome to today's session on a new chapter of 2nd PUC, that is chapter 9, Strategies for Enhancement in Food Production. I am Dr. Divya, Biology faculty, Vidhyaashram Pre-University College, Mysore, Temple of Excellence. So we all know that as the population of a country increases, the demand for food also increases, and there are both the meat eaters as well as the plant eaters in that particular population, that is those which are vegetarians and those which are non-vegetarians do exist. So to such high or extreme population or to such large population, how is the food supplied, be it in the form of meat or be it in the form of the vegetarian diet or be it plant based? So for that, we cannot depend on the age-old practice of farming or rearing animals. A lot of new techniques has to be implemented if we need to fulfill the demand for food of the rising population. So for that particular purpose, different strategies have been undertaken by various scientists with the help of the government, wherein they have made certain experiments or framed certain techniques wherein they can increase the food production in the form of fisheries, in the form of animal husbandries, in the form of beekeeping, and in the form of breeding plants. So that plant breeding will give rise to an improved yield and a disease free crop. Therefore not just the food scarcity can be overcome, but also it can bring a lot of economic value to that particular farmer, whoever is in that particular business. So that is why this chapter completely deals with what are the different strategies that have been followed in order to increase the food production, so that the given population or the population of that particular country or the whole world should not suffer with the lack of food. So that is the reason behind this. And we all know that nowadays there is nowhere food scarcity. Even in the developing countries also there is no food scarcity, and thankfully it is because of this. It is because of the green revolution. So we all know about green revolution, right? So about all that we shall study in this particular chapter. In today's session, we shall mainly discuss about animal husbandry and the various steps that have been implemented to manage the farm. So animal husbandry is not, it is also not a simple technique. You have to be very scientific and also you have to be very creative in order to maintain that particular animal rearing. Otherwise you will be under a loss as well. You will be it will be like simply wasting food, right? So for that particular reason there are various strategies that have been followed which we need to actually follow if we are into animal husbandry. So all that we shall study in today's session. So to begin with, we shall see what animal husbandry is. Animal means it has something to do with the animals such as the poultries, the bees, the fishes, the cows, rearing of cows and all that, right? So animal husbandry is also a kind of a agricultural practice wherein animals are bred. Why animal breeding should occur? So breeding will actually help us to decide what kind of a gene does the particular animal which we are rearing should possess. So that is why animal husbandry is a kind of animal breeding, or it is a kind of agricultural practice wherein breeding and rearing or raising of the livestock is taken place. So that is nothing but animal husbandry. And animal husbandry deals with taking care of the livestock in that particular farm and also breeding of different animals or livestock such as breeding of livestock, breeding, that is poultry farming, in fisheries and all that. And we all know that breeding is very, very important. Even in the case of fisheries also, we collect the egg and then we keep it in a separate spawning pond, right? There in the spawning pond, we allow the eggs to or the young fishes to come out of it, and then it will be transferred into the separate pond. It will not be left along with the adult fishes. So if it is left along with the adult fishes, what happens? There are chances of the adult fishes feeding on the small fishes. So that is the reason why all this should be followed there. So that we are taking care of. So animal husbandry means it is not just a scientific process, but also it is an art. It is such an art wherein you have to be cautious, like how you can, like you have to put, sometimes you can put your own ideas, which is very cost efficient and all that. You can put your own ideas. So therefore, not just being scientific, it is also a art, like how based on how you actually rear these animals. So the world's 70% of the animals or the livestock population is bred in India and in China. So China and India are the ones who provide the meat among all the others. These are the countries, that is China and India, who gives more importance to animal husbandry, and 70% of the world livestock is actually present in China and in India, and it contribution to the world farm produce is only 25%. But here imagine, it is very, very surprising, right? Why is it surprising? 70% of the world's population of livestock, if we compare, India and China contributes to 70%. Rest 30% of the livestock that is there is distributed to all other parts of the world. But 70% is held by China and India, but the contribution to the world farm is just 25%. Why is it? Though we have a large number of animal husbandry, but the contribution of food to the world overall is just 25%. And it is so astonishing to know that we have such few percentage of contribution towards the world when it comes to animal husbandry and therefore the animal food. So here what happens here is the productivity rate when we compare is very, very low. Though we have a large number of livestock rearing centers and animal husbandry farms, but animal farms, but in spite of that the contribution is just 25%. It is because the productivity that is there is very, very low. So the productivity is low is because most of the animal husbandry is just like a small scale. It is only small scale, means either in the homes or without proper knowledge, people will just start animal husbandry and all those reasons. But here what happens, and also if people are starting animal husbandry on their own interest, they will just follow the age old practices of rearing the animals. They will not go into new techniques. So that is the reason why the productivity is very, very low. So the government has made some amendments, or they have made some strategies wherein they can teach the people who are participating in animal husbandry so that they can follow the age-old technique as well as adopt the new improvised experimental versions that have been already followed, like artificial insemination. All that can be done so that the animal husbandry industry can increase, and our contribution towards the world in terms of animal husbandry can also increase. So that is the reason. So next, talking about the management of farms and farm animals. So I told you only 25% of the contribution is from India, even though we have 70% of the animal farming is in India. So what are those strategies that can be followed in order to improvise the animal farming or the livestock rearing? So first we shall study the steps to improve dairy farming. So what is dairy farming? Dairy farming is nothing but wherein the cows are reared, right? So dairy is nothing but the milk and the milk products that we get out of it. That is nothing but dairy farming. So if we need to get enough quantity of milk, then we need to improvise the breed of that particular cow. So if we need to improvise the breed of the particular cow, we cannot follow the age-old practice, right? We need to adopt the new techniques that have come in. So what are those such improvised techniques that we can follow? We shall study. So here the first concept that we need to understand here is, if we need to get good quantity of milk in the case of dairy industry, we need a cow which is of good breed. So who will prefer a cow which is giving only very few amount, that is liters of milk, right? So the farmer will always think of improving his economic status, right? So therefore, not just that, he will start to implement, that is, he will start to go in search of a good breed. So therefore, selection of a good breed is very important, and that too those breeds which are having high yielding potential, they should give more amount of milk. And on the other hand, selecting cows which are disease free are also very important, and selecting cows which are resistant to diseases is also very important. Now here what might happen is, you might select a cow which is giving more amount of milk when compared to the local cows that are seen everywhere compared to the local cows. But here what might happen, maybe the cow that you have purchased or which you have selected, which is giving high amount of milk, maybe it is not resistant to a disease. So say for example, because of some reason it got a disease. So when it gets a disease, the yield of the milk will also come down naturally, right? So that is why not only searching for a breed that is high yielding, but searching for a breed of cow that is resistant to the disease is also very important. But the first point here is selection of good breeds having high yielding potential, that is under any climatic conditions or any area. Say for example, Jersey cows, they were developed in Jersey through artificial insemination and breeding techniques. Jersey cows were developed in Jersey. But Jersey cows are present in India also nowadays, right? So whenever a scientist develops a new breed, he must make sure that that particular breed adjusts to all the different climatic conditions. So that is how. So here, when a farmer selects a breed, he should also make sure that that particular cow adjusts to that particular condition or climatic area of that particular region where he is going to rear that particular cow. So that is also very important. Next, resistance to the disease. So the cows should be selected which are resistant to the disease. So for breeding purpose, you cannot breed a cow with that of a good cow, right? So you need to say for example, when you have to breed, the female should also be healthy and the male should also be healthy. You cannot think that, okay, if the female is fragile and like she is the one who is not resistant to the disease, with that we can breed a healthy cow. That is not possible, it will not help. So therefore, both the cows that we are choosing, be it a female or a male, selection of a cow that is resistant to disease is very important. Next, the cattle have to be housed very well. Means they have to be taken care of very properly. In a case like adequate clean water should be supplied. The herd or that is the shed wherever the cows are kept or reared, or the farm wherever they are reared and kept, there it should be very hygienic and clean, all that. And it should be very hygienic and clean means only if it is hygienic and clean, then that particular cow can live in a hygienic environment, therefore free from diseases. So that is why all this is very important. The animal should be housed very well. So that is about some of the steps to improve dairy farming. Apart from that, the feeding of the cattle should also be carried out at adequate times, and also proper nutritious feed should be provided to the cattle. So feeding of cattle should be carried out in a scientific manner, wherein the feed should be of good quantity, and it is not like, okay, if I give more amount of feed, then my cow will grow well. No. According to the standards, like how much feed should be put to a cow, according to the weight of the cow, only so much feed should be given to it. Otherwise, it may cause a problem. So therefore, quantity of feed and the quality of the feed that are given to the animal is also very important in terms of dairy farming. And also it is very, very important to maintain very strict cleanliness and hygiene. So not just the cattle should be maintained hygiene. So in animal husbandry, it is very, very important to keep the shed clean wherever it is the livestock is being reared. You have to keep the shed clean. Proper washing of the cows on the regular basis should be done, and not just that, the person who is handling that particular cow or the owner of that particular farm or any laborers or workers or anybody who is handling that particular farm should also maintain hygiene, because he will be the one who is milking that cow and all that, right? So if a proper good quality milk has to reach the entire world or a particular place, then that milk also should be of high quality. And if that milk has to be of high quality, the cleanliness of that particular animal or the cow and also the person handling that animal should or milking that animal should also be of great importance. So therefore, because they will be milking the cows, they will be the ones who will be storing the milk and also transporting the milk during all those time also. It is very, very important. The utensils in which the milk will be stored, the place where the milk is stored, and because we know that first of all the milk will attract a lot of microbes because it has the sugar content in it, right? So that is why it attracts a lot of microbes. So therefore, keeping it in a dry place in optimum temperature is very, very important, and transporting it like that also is very, very important. And also whatever milk products being made out of it should also be done in a good hygienic manner, because we all know that any homemade milk product we prepare, that will get spoilt very fast if we don't prepare it in or keep it in a good way. The best example that I can give you is of the curd. So curds in your house, if you every day if you need to store curds, you need to change the vessel in which you are storing it. You should not store in that same vessel for a longer duration. The curds will get spoiled fast or it will get fermented very fast. So that is the reason. So that is why, not just that, so imagine if it is like this in the house, then in a large scale how much cleanliness they will have to maintain. So all that should be maintained very, very strictly. And regular visits by a veterinary doctor is a must. So the veterinary doctor will identify the disease, and the diseased animal he will tell you what to do, what are the precautions that you have to follow. Then he will tell you to isolate that particular diseased cow so that you can protect the other herds as well. So for that, all that purpose, for timely injections, for everything, it is better that a regular visit by a veterinary doctor is a must in the case of dairy farming. So if all these steps are followed very, very strictly, then dairy farming is a quite good business, or it will bring a great economic value to the particular farmer who is involved in this particular dairy farming. So next, talking about poultry farm management. So poultry means it's something to do with the rearing of the hens, the chickens, and not just that, the geese and all that, turkey, all that, because of course we don't prefer eating geese and turkeys and all that here, but in other parts of the world turkey is one of the they prefer turkey just like how we prefer chicken. So we know about that and all. So even rearing ducks, geese and turkeys is also comes under the poultry farming. So poultry is a class of domesticated fowl or birds which are used for food and also for their eggs. And poultry and egg industry is one of the most leading industry nowadays, and because most of the people prefer them as food. And chicken and ducks and also turkey and geese also come under the poultry farming, or they also come under the fowls which can be reared under the poultry farming. So this is about poultry farming. So what are the steps that we can follow in order to improve the poultry farming? So here also it is the same thing. We need to select the fowls or the chickens or any of the poultry bird which are disease free or they are resistant to disease, and we also need to check for suitable breeds. Can we rear turkey like how we are rearing chicken here? No, it is not possible, right? In large quantity, it is not possible. Why? Because turkey doesn't belong to this particular region. So that is why. So whenever you choose a particular fowl for rearing, you have to make sure that whether that particular bird or fowl is suitable for this particular region or not. Otherwise, the farmer will be under a great loss. So therefore, selection of disease free and suitable fowls is also very important, or suitable breeds is also very important. Next, proper and safe farm conditions. So we all know that poultry waste contains a lot of germs in them, and it also invites diseases to the poultry birds itself. So therefore, keeping the poultry farm very clean and hygienic is very important. Next is providing proper feed and water to the poultry animals is very important. So when we are rearing that is a chicken in a large quantity, we cannot provide the food that we give to the chicken when we are rearing in a small quantity. Like when we are rearing just 10 chickens in the house, the food that we put is just grains. But the same thing cannot be used for the chickens which are reared, that is the broilers that we call. For them the same feed will not work, right? So that is why you need to provide them with good quantity and good quality of feed, and also good quality of water, that is pure water should be supplied throughout, and proper hygiene and health care should also be maintained. So for poultry also, they have certain antibiotics which should be given to the bird at certain periods of time. All that should be maintained very properly in the case of poultry farming. So if all this is done, then the poultry farming will be of great economic value to the farmers. So therefore, poultry, that is the improvement in the poultry industry of a country will also increase. So all this should be maintained. Next is beekeeping. So beekeeping is also called as apiculture. So beekeeping is nothing but maintenance of hives of honey bees for the production of honey, and it is a cottage industry. So it is a small scale industry, or it is a cottage industry. Anybody who is having a small area of land with proper trees and all that, or who is in a village, there itself surrounding his house, he can keep the that is bee boxes. So he can keep it and he can start rearing the honey bee. So that is why it is called as a cottage industry. Here proper knowledge is needed. You need to visit workshops. So 1 or 2 workshops wherein they will tell us exactly what we can do, how we need to keep a beehive, what are the precautions that we need to take, all that they will give us a protocol. So once we come to know about the protocol, anybody can come and they can start this beehive business. So it is very easy, hence it is called as the cottage industry. And this particular apiculture or beehive keeping can be practiced in any area where there are sufficient bee pastures. So bee pastures means where there are enough amount of wild shrubs, then fruit orchards, cultivated crops, because the honeybees, they feed on the nectar of the flowers, right? So any flowering plant, if it is there around, you can keep. So if say for example anybody is having a estate, say for example a coffee estate, even in between the coffee estates also, if we can keep this beehive boxes, or we can rear the honeybees, and they will start feeding on the nectar in and around that particular area, even from the coffee flowers during that flowering season and all that, and we'll get enough amount of honey, right? So that is how you have a good garden with good number of trees, with fruit trees and all that, any flowering plants you have there, there also we can rear the honeybees. It is very easy. And in honeybees also there are several species of honeybees which can be reared, but the most commonly reared honeybee is called as the Apis indica. So Apis indica is the most commonly reared honeybee. So even when we visit the forest areas, or when we visit a fruit orchard or a garden or anywhere, we can see even small beehives, right? Wherein small bees will be, that is in the beehive, they will be building the beehive, they will be collecting and storing honey in the beehive and all that. But all those cannot be brought and reared. Only the most common one that is reared is the Apis indica, because Apis indica is the one which we can get more amount of honey and of good quality. And beehives can also be kept in one's courtyard, that, as I told you, it can be reared very easily in any veranda also, veranda of the house also you can keep, or in even on the roof of the house also you can keep. Only thing that you need is you need to have a proper place, in the sense you need to have surrounding, there should be at least trees in the surrounding. So that should be taken care of, or flowering plants or fruiting trees should be there in the surrounding, that should be taken care of. And beekeeping, it is not labor intensive. There is no need for, like how for rearing poultry and cattle and all that, laborers or workers are needed, because one person cannot maintain the whole farm, right? So that is why, because it should be kept clean, and every time cleaning should be done, everything, feeding, watering, everything should be done in the proper time and all that. But in the case of bees, all that is not needed, because the bees themselves will go out, they will collect the honey, they will come back, they will start depositing it in the hive and all that, right? So that is why any one person, he himself can handle the beehives in a proper manner. So that is why it is not labor intensive, hence it can be that is, beehives can be kept anywhere, and it can be reared by anybody once you learn the tactics or the protocol of how to rear the particular honey bees. So that is the reason. And also we need to make sure that even the type of trees that are growing in that particular area where you are rearing the honeybee also matters. Why? Because there are some trees whose pollen might be allergic to the human beings. So such trees or flowering plants should not be present in that particular area. So all that also should be taken care of. So that is also should be taken into consideration while rearing the beekeeping. Otherwise, beekeeping is one of the, it's also some people follow it like a hobby as well. So it is one of the best farming technique. So here, when beekeeping, there are some points that has to be kept in mind. So what are those? Though it is laborers are not needed, any one person can handle this apiculture, and even though it can be that is, beekeeping can be done anywhere, be it in a house, veranda of the house, or a roof of the house, or in large extent it can be done. Anyhow it is done, there are certain things that we need to follow for beekeeping. So what are those? We shall see. So first we need to know the knowledge and the habitat of that particular, or the habits of that particular bee. We cannot simply keep it in some city or somewhere, you cannot rear the bees, right? Because in cities we know that the number of trees and the flowering plants that are there in the surrounding of a house or anywhere is very less, right? So that is why the bees will have to then go very far in search of the flowering plant. So that will not help. So therefore, we need to make sure that in that particular area where we are surrounding, there is enough amount of flowering plants, fruit orchards and all that. So knowledge and nature of habit of that particular bee, knowledge of the nature and habit of the bee is very important. Next, selection of suitable location for keeping the beehives is very important. I told you. So it doesn't mean that saying that you can keep the beehives in the veranda. Can you keep it in an apartment wherein there is a veranda or a balcony? No, it is not possible, because we all know that in cities and all that, there are no trees and flowering plants much available, right? It is not much there. So that is why the area that we select, or the location that we select for beekeeping, also plays a very important role, and keeping it in a highly polluted area, all that will not help, or highly industrial area and all that will not help. And catching and hiving of swarms or group bees is also very important. You have to have a practice of all that. You need to wear proper clothing, you need to cover your face and your head with a mesh and all that, how to catch a bee, how to handle them very carefully so that you don't disturb them when you remove the hive in order to extract the honey. All that should be taken care of. So it is better to visit 1 or 2 workshops, learn about it and then come back and practice at the home. Do not think that just by reading somewhere, don't think that I can do it, and don't try to do it without practice. So practice and practical knowledge is very important here. So wherein in practical knowledge, when you go for workshops and all that, they will teach you exactly how you can catch the bees, wherein lots of in a hive, you know that swarms of bees will be sitting. So you cannot go and you cannot roughly handle that hive. The bees will come back to sting you, right? So that is why you have to learn the technique of handling the beehive. So that is also very, very important. Next, management of beehives during different season is also very, very important, because the flowering plants, all the flowering plants will not flower throughout the season, they will be seasonal. So therefore, sometimes what happens, when the bees try to visit different types of flowers, it might hinder the taste of that particular honey. So therefore, management of the bees in that particular season is very, very important. All that should be taken care of. And also handling and collecting honey and also bee wax, all that should be taken care of. So while handling honey, you are actually snatching away somebody's property, right? Honey is the property of the bee. So you have to be very careful. You cannot just go and mishandle it. Then what will happen? It will create a problem, and maybe who knows, next time the bees may not return back to that particular bee box. So that is why handling it very carefully, all that is very, very important. And also collection of the bee wax, how to collect the bee wax, everything. You should know the knowledge. As I told you, not just sitting and googling and reading it and thinking that it is very, very easy. Don't start this apiculture. Always follow the rules and regulations, or always follow the techniques that have been taught by other people who have knowledge about, already they have a practice and knowledge about beekeeping. So that is very, very important. Next, what are the benefits of beekeeping? We shall see. So bees, they just don't provide honey, but imagine if you grow in a crop field, if you start beekeeping, then the bees will also help in pollination of that particular crop. So right, so that is why bees are the pollinators of many of the crop species such as sunflower, brassica, apple and pear. So when you keep them in such farms and orchards, bees help in pollinating, therefore they help in fruit setting and all that, and flower formation and all that, so that, or fruit setting and seed setting and all that. So that is why bee rearing is one of the great benefits to any of the farmers. So anybody is having a good agricultural field, if they start beekeeping, then it will also, then you'll get a income from the bees as well in the form of honey. And not just that, bees will also start to take care of your crops, wherein they will help in pollination and all that. And keeping bees in the crop fields during flowering period increases pollination efficiency, and also it will improve the yield of that particular crop. So because bees, when they sit on the flowers, that is when they are pollinating, they mostly prefer the healthy flowers, right? They will prefer the healthy flowers to feed on to the nectar. Therefore, when they prefer the healthy plants, obviously pollination, when they go and sit on another healthy crop, then the pollination of seeds will occur from a healthy plant to that of a healthy plant itself, right? So that and all is a great benefit to the farmer. So that is the benefits of beekeeping. Next, talking about the fisheries. So fisheries also comes under the animal breeding. So fisheries, it is an industry that is mainly devoted to catching fishes, rearing fishes, selling of fishes, be it shellfishes, prawns, then all these freshwater fishes, sea fishes, crabs, lots of the marine creatures they concentrate on, and lots of other aquatic animals as well. And some of the common freshwater fishes I have mentioned here, they are katla, rohu and the common carp. And some of the marine fishes are also being reared in the fisheries, that is hilsa, then there are sardines, mackerel and pomfret. So these are the fishes. Fishes are very healthy. Why? Because they have so fishes are quite healthy, right? Because when compared to the other red meats or the poultry meat and all that, fishes are quite healthy because they have this omega-3 fatty acids, and omega-3 fatty acids are found only in few of the food that we eat. So that, and fishes is one such food. So that is why fishes is very, very important, and it is so those who are wishing to have a healthy diet, then fish is the best option when compared to poultry or any other red meat. So that is why fish industry is one of the great that is widely spread industry, and it is of great economic value to whoever is participating in this particular fishing industry. So this is about the fisheries. So what are the importance of fisheries? So fisheries actually provides income to the particular person who is rearing the fishes, and also it will provide employment to that particular to millions of fishermen as well, because sometimes what happens, the fishing industries will depend on the small scale fishers also for the product, because the fishing industries would have some tie with any of the restaurants or any of the bigger markets who are selling fishes. When they don't get adequate supply of fish, they will prefer the fishers from the small scale fishermen and all that. So that is how they also, because of this collaboration, they also help in improving the lives of the other fishermen as well. So therefore it provides income as well as employment to millions of fishermen and farmers who are in this fishing industry, particularly those people who are living in the coastal states. So coastal areas and all that. So the fishermen, and we all know that people living in the coastal areas, that is the fishermen living in the coastal area, their main income is through fishing itself. So therefore fisheries provide a large income to such people, and because we know that for many of them it is the only source of their livelihood, for the fishermen especially. So we all heard of green revolution, right? So green revolution was nothing but wherein the plants, scientists, they started doing breeding experiments on plants and all that. Therefore they started to make high yielding plant varieties, which led to a green revolution. Likewise, the improvement in the quality of the fishing and all that led to the blue revolution. So blue revolution is nothing but wherein in order to meet the increasing demands of the growing population, so nowadays most of the people, they prefer eating fish because it is quite healthy, right? So the growing population, the population also started to grow, the number of fish eating people also started to grow, and the demand for fish also started to grow. So in order to fulfill the increasing demands of the people on fisheries, different techniques have been followed in order to increase the production of the fishing industry, and the best example that we can give is of the aquaculture. So when you visit Mangalore or any other coastal areas and all that, there they have industries wherein they follow this aquaculture. They themselves will have large ponds and all that wherein they will rear the fishes. So rearing the fishes in the natural environment, there again what happens, maybe all the eggs will not survive and all the eggs will not hatch into small fishes, right? But rearing them in a closed environmental condition, there 1000 eggs are produced. Out of those 1000 eggs also we can get the fishes, right? So that is why aquaculture is one of the important reasons which helps in increasing the fishes. And also pisciculture, that is rearing of the fishes, is also called as pisciculture, and these, that is aquaculture and pisciculture, they have been able to rear different types of fishes in large quantities in order to cater to the needs of the people. Of course, these industries depend on the local fishermen as well. Fishes that the local fishermen catch, they are very rare and it is not sufficient for fulfilling the demands of the people. Imagine ourselves in a small area, how many people eat fishes, and every day they have to be supplied with fishes. So because every day one of the other people go to buy fishes, from where will they meet the demands, right? It is by aquaculture and pisciculture. And also not just that, these in aquaculture and pisciculture, they also try to grow aquatic plants which is suitable both for the fishes that are growing in the fresh water as well as the marine water, and also they try to rear the freshwater fishes as well as the marine water fishes. So all these can be maintained in a closed condition wherein it can be monitored regularly in aquaculture and pisciculture. Therefore, keeping in mind or making sure that the amount of fishes that they rear will be able to meet the demanding population. So that is about the blue revolution. So aquaculture and pisciculture actually brought about the blue revolution in the country. So this was about this particular session wherein we talked about animal husbandry, and in order to improve the production in animal husbandry, in order to meet the demands of food of the people, what all strategies we need to follow or rules and regulations we need to follow, we have learned. And this was about this session. In the coming session, we shall study about animal breeding, how animal breeding is exactly done, what all animals can be bred, and what are the breeding experiments that are being followed in the case of animal breeding. All that we shall study in the coming session. So I hope you understood this particular session. We shall meet in the coming session with a new topic. Thank you.